Have you ever found yourself wondering how to join a PCA sim racing session? I'm a league certified driver in a class. I'm ready to go. I've been checked out. EDE instructors say I'm fastest guy on the planet. All I need is a session. I'm going to show you how to join an official league session. I'm going to show you how to join a session that might be hosted by somebody via the hosting a session channel in Discord. I'm going to also show you how to, on the other side of that session, find your results and find some cool tools to assess how you did. Let's have some fun. There are a lot of ways to find sessions, especially official sessions. If you are looking to join a session that's tied to the league that you are looking to join and it's a scheduled session, easiest way to find that is to start in the iRacing interface. If you go over to the left here, find leagues, you can actually find a couple different things here. So one is if you select My Leagues, or you've previously selected My Leagues, you'll have a list of the leagues that you belong to. Now this list can be simple list, or you can expand this and actually look at the pretty icons. In any league for which there's a session, you can double click on or actually click onto, and you will find a tab up here at the top called Sessions, and it's going to list any upcoming sessions. Now, a nice thing here is that you can actually drill down into this and see what the session is about. And here we can see one is scheduled for October 7th at 6 p.m. That's actually going to start up. Actually, 5 p.m. Now, this session, because it has not actually activated yet, it's not actually available to us to join yet, we can still use all the session setup to do a test drive. We click on this, it's going to start a session that's going to use all the same parameters that were used to define this session that we can practice in, which is quite useful and kind of fun. I told you there were multiple ways to do this. One of my favorite ways to actually find this is sometimes I know sessions are happening and I may not remember exactly which league those sessions are occurring in. So underneath leagues, there's also a selection here, league sessions. And this will list all of the sessions that are associated with leagues that you belong to, and we'll show them in order of when they're going to be happening. The results are the same here, though. We can actually do the exact same thing we did when we clicked on My Leagues and selected it. As here we know that there's a league session that's starting at 1700 hours, October 7th, or there's another one on October 10th at 1700 hours. So we can click on this. Hasn't started yet. We could test drive this session. So it's the exact same interface. It's just a different entry point through this league session interface. So instead of My Leagues and having to find a league where there's a session coming, so there are no sessions here. So that's why, because there are no sessions for these other leagues here, that those sessions aren't listed in this interface. So this is actually a quicker way, I think, to find the sessions you're looking for associated with the leagues you belong to. Something that's quite common when you're actually looking at league sessions is that once the time has come, it's now 17:04, this session should be open. And I see a restricted, you may not join this session. The session's actually currently unavailable. Now, what can happen is that sometimes the way that the iRacing service actually works is at the scheduled time, the backend cloud services spool up to basically open the session up to drivers. And so that's when that process starts, is the start time. So at 1700, that process started in the background at iRacing, but it took 5 minutes for that server to come up and become available. So now we actually see that it is available to us. We can click on it. We can actually come down here and register. Once we click on register, it's going to go through the process of registering us and then presenting that join button that we're also familiar with. Now, the other cool thing is that we can actually do some other things here. We don't necessarily have to register for the session. We can watch the session, which is kind of fun as well. So we click on watch, it's going to do the same sort of stuff here. We're going to click to register for this hosted session, and we're going to click continue. And what it's going to do is it's going to register us in the same way that we would be registering if we were a driver, except it's a watch situation. So we'll be able to watch the race, watch the drivers participating without cluttering up the interface. So if I click on join now, I'm not joining as a driver, but merely as a spectator. And so you see I'm not listed in the entries for this race, but I can actually see what's going on and watch the race live. Obviously, if you are driving in this event, you do not want to click on watch. You want to click on register and register as a driver so that you actually enter in the event and show up on this entries list as you're joining. So I can actually test drive this and ghost drive with the other drivers on the track, but will not show up as a listed entry. Because you see, I'm not on the entry list, but I could actually do practice laps and participate in this as a ghost session if I so chose as well. And the way I do that is just to do a test drive. And now I'm actually in session, but nobody in the session can actually see me. I'm a ghost, essentially. This is actually a really, really awesome feature of iRacing, is if you are intimidated by racing with your fellow racers, either in a league or in iRacing official sessions, and you just want to go out and see how competitive you would be if you joined a particular race. This is a great way to actually do that. Is you can actually ghost, you can drive through other cars so you don't interfere with the race as it's going on. But it's a nice way to actually join and participate, to test yourself, see if you keep pace, see if you can actually drive the course along with the other drivers, trace someone else's driving line. All of these things are something that you can do by being a ghost, being a spectator, and test driving within the session. Again, the other cars can't interact with you. You can't interact with them, so there's no danger that you're posing to the race. But that's a pretty cool feature of the iRacing interface. Now, one of the other types of sessions that you may actually be party to are ones that are advertised in the Discord channel of PCA Sim Racing. So here, if we come under General, there's a section under here called Hosting a Session. If we click on that, we can actually find different sessions that exist. So here we actually have one that's been put up by Greg Fullwood. It's called Barber Practice, and he gives the lobby name and the password here in context, so we can actually find this. Now, this is nice because once we have that information, we can actually come in and find this in the iRacing interface. The way that we actually will do that is we'll go ahead and minimize our Discord channel here, and we'll go into Go Racing, and we'll find hosted races. Now, this is going to be a sea of stuff, and not all of it is relevant. So we know what the name of this session is. So let's do this. Barber Motorsports. Oh, the session name was Shape Up. I misread that. So I do know that it's at Barber Motorsport Park. I know Greg Fullwood is the person that did this, and he gave us the password. So all we need to do to join this is to click, and we can actually click on this and join. We can watch, or we can test drive using the same parameters that he's actually set up for this session. And if we join, again, it's like any other session. Once we clicked on register, it will go through the process of getting us set up and registered, and then there'll be a join button that will be in the upper right hand corner that will allow us to actually join this. And that's the true for all sessions when you're joining them. So let's go ahead and show that. We'll click on that. We'll enter in the password that was provided in the Discord. We'll click on continue. And now it's going to load us into this practice session. So you'll see we're actually in the upper right-hand corner. It's doing the circle thing to join, and it's registering us to the race server. And once it completes registration, we'll have a join button, and we can click on join. And now it's actually going to start the sim and drop me right into the session. So now we're in the session, and all is good. I can practice, join the session, do my setup in Garage if I need to do anything there, and away I go. Now, let's say I've joined the session, and I've decided that this is not the session that I want to be part of. This is not what I'm looking for, or there's another session starting up somewhere else that I need to join, but the session hasn't ended yet. I'm going to show you how to disconnect from your session and make sure you withdraw so you can actually join another session or another event. The way you do this, of course, exiting the interface, we're going to click on quit. We're going to say yes, really quit. We don't need to save the replay unless we did something interesting or need to remember something about this particular session. So I can click on this X to discard this box. Now it's exited us out. Now you'll notice that it's showing that I am actually still registered. I can still click on join to join this session, but if I want to join another session, I have to disconnect or withdraw from the session that I'm currently connected to. So I'm going to click on withdraw, and it's going to ask me if I'm sure that I want to withdraw from this session. I'm going to say yes, and it's going to disconnect me. So now I'm free to connect to any other session that I may be wanting to join. So we're all familiar with the race results page that is presented at the end of a session that you can actually access from the top access menu in your iRacing interface, and that's all good and well. But what happens if you want to get back to one of those results pages? Well, if you come over here to the left side navigation of your iRacing UI, you'll find results. And under results, you're going to see the last 7 days of races and race results. You'll see all the event types if you've actually got this filtered out to all results, but it also will list the specific event type so that you'll be able to see hosted events, practice events, and race events all listed here. Since all league events are technically hosted racing events, as are all of the hosted sessions that people put up during the week to practice, you'll see hosted as the event type. So in this context, I had a group of guys that I was racing with in the Petit Le Mans. So we actually did a WWZ team practice session for the Petit Le Mans event. And the results from that practice event are actually here. And I can click on that and I can see how the team members participating performed in that practice event. All good and well. But it only shows the last 7 days in this interface. And that is limiting. So how can you access stuff from further back? Or maybe you want to access hosted sessions that are associated with the league that maybe you didn't participate in. There's a way that you can actually do this, but you have to go through the web interface to do it. I think I mentioned before that we actually have a lot of really interesting hidden stuff in the interface that we don't have access to. There used to be a menu bar up here that was a little bit more robust. You can still get to it. You have to just have to click in through other aspects of the interface to actually get that menu to appear. So what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to, for giggles, going to click on my results because that would be the natural place that I go to see, results. But I know that if it's not an official race, so if I actually just do a broad search here, I'm going to get the official races that I have participated in recently. But I am not going to see hosted results. So if I actually want to get to my league results, I have to come up here to the menu. And under hosted, there is a hosted results. Oh, okay. So if I click on hosted results, it's going to give me yet another screen by which I can filter. Now, I happen to know that most of the PCA Sim Racing sessions are actually configured and set up by our good friend Doug Atkinson. So I actually have him listed here as one of my friends that I've actually included in my interface here. So I can actually find by session host, Doug Atkinson, click go. And here what's going to happen is you're going to see all of the sessions that have been configured by Doug that have taken place already. So here we can actually see the challenge and sport class races that happened earlier this week at Barber Motorsport. And so we can actually click on this little red icon here over to the right, and we get a pop-up window here that's going to show us these race results. Now, this is quite useful, is that it's actually showing us the full race information here. And this is useful because it's showing us all of the information that we need, including who started first, what position they finished in, their name, the class car number, all of that information. We can drill into the individual laps and actually see all of the laps. We actually see that Aaron Nations here had a 0 incident race, outstanding, fastest lap, race winner, did a really good job here. So we got all this really good information here that we can see. Very, very useful for getting average lap times, fastest lap times, comparing your times to others, seeing incidents, incident counts, and all the useful information for that race. We can also scroll down a little bit and we can see warm-up performance. We can see qualification performance, so who got pole position, how they qualified with what time, what the average was across all their laps, and actually details on those laps. We can also see the same information for the practice run. So, okay, we've got access to a lot of really good information here. But one of the things that people actually miss and is quite useful in terms of looking at sessions and session performance are 3 things, really. One is session events. A lot of times something will happen on track, and if we're not party to it, we don't know about it. we can actually click on session events, and we have a itemized list of everything that happened by lap, and it puts a timestamp in it as well, and actually articulates exactly what happened, when, why, and to whom. This is actually useful for going back and maybe identifying laps on which you were given penalties, to figure out what those were tied to, or to look to see where someone else had a problem, went off track, had to go into pits, somebody falls off your radar, somebody that you were competing against and you lost track of them. You can come back in here and actually see exactly what happened. This is very, very useful for IRRs as well. If you ever have to file an IRR, this can give you an indication as to maybe a car that you were in an incident with got a penalty that you were unaware of. So you can check this in addition to contacting that driver to figure out what the full skinny is and figure out if there's need for further investigation on a particular incident. Very useful. Now, let's say the race is over and you want to kind of see how someone progressed through the race. We can actually go in and view a lap chart. I love the lap chart. The lap chart is actually a very cool piece of data, especially when you're looking at an endurance race and really see a lot of give and take, a race where there is a pit stop. There's information that is interesting in terms of how the positions give and take happens as you're going through. So here we can actually, let's take a look here at, let's just look at Carl. Carl, he qualified second, P2, had a really strong qualification. Unfortunately, he had an incident in lap 4 that dropped him down in the order. And he made up some ground, made up a little bit more ground, and then had another incident and dropped back. But then he slowly made up ground until he actually ultimately finished 15th. Great example of how the lap chart really tells the story of the race. And so you can actually see that for, other drivers that actually, may have had incidents, dropped off. Aaron, of course, he's a straight line across from 1 to 1. But this is a useful way to see what happened in the race and to analyze your own performance, see where incidents happened, see where you lost positions or where you gained positions, and really tells an interesting story. The other way to look at this information is to view the lap graph. And this is another visualization tool that basically just sort of looks at the field. And in a similar way, I like the tabular data myself a little bit better, but here's a similar thing. We can actually remove drivers from this view by clicking on their name, and we can see, what happened to the various drivers. This is something that I actually became familiar with when I was doing karting, especially indoor karting. A lot of the karting scoring systems provide a scoring sheet that's very similar to this to kind of show where people are. I think it's a hot mess. I think it's very difficult to look at. It can be interesting if you're looking at a single driver or a handful of drivers, so turning off the ones that you don't care about. But it is yet another way of actually looking at this information. Of course, this is all exportable. You can actually export to an image, so you can put this somewhere useful on a web page or a results page or what have you. You can, of course, print it. So that's also very useful as well. All of this information can be outputted to comma-separated values, so you can pull it into a spreadsheet as well. So if you're doing your own analysis, this can be really, really useful to just track performance. We actually have several of our members that use this to evaluate drivers in general. Our EDE instructors leverage this ability to output to CSV to track overall pace, incidents over time, and other sorts of things that give an objective view of a driver's performance over time to determine whether or not they're ready for class promotion, or if there are educational opportunities that are necessary to improve their performance and their safety to others on the track. So thank you for watching. I hope that you found this to be interesting information and useful in your PCA sim racing life. If you have liked the video, please consider clicking on like, and if you would like to be notified of future videos, please click on subscribe. Thank you.